Welcome back to Ohio Country today. And joining me once again is Jim Jordan. And Jim, it's nice to have you back in our program.
Good to be with you, Dan. Good to be with you.
I know you've been a pretty busy guy. I know there's a lot of things happening. But first, have to ask about Polly and the kids and everybody.
Fine. Yeah, we got 8 grandkids. They're all doing fine. All 4 of our kids married, and they all got at least one grandkid, or I guess they would say one child. We call them grandkids, right? So they're all doing fine.
You know, Jim, I know that your schedule is crazy all the time, and having that support at home is important to you. Having the faith that you have is important to you. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, no, you're exactly right. We're all, we're all sinners saved by grace. So we appreciate that so much. I feel fortunate. Polly's wonderful. Stuck with me for now 39 years. So yeah, they're doing fine, and it's a great country. I mean, the Lord has been so kind to I think our family, to our country. In fact, you saw this last night. I think in the debate, Senator Vance, I thought did a tremendous job. But he said in there, he says, you know, when I'm out and about, people come up to me. He said, people who are hurting, people in tough situations. And he said they come up to me and they ask him how he's doing, and he's like, I'm doing fine, and I'm just running for important job he's running for, but that's the kind of attitude so many Americans have, and I think it's because God's blessed our country in so many ways, and this election is one consequential election. I think we're going to win. I think President Trump's going to be in the White House. But it's important. It's important.
You know, one of the important things, too, to our viewers, of course, is agriculture, our producers out there. It's been a tough year for much of Ohio. I'm sure you've seen the devastation as far as the drought is concerned. But more importantly, to watch them kick the can as far as the farm bill down the road. It's been 2 years now, and it's terrible that has been politicized the way it has been.
Yeah, and let's hope we can maybe get something done in the lame duck session. Now, some of that could depend on what happens on November 5th, but we are back in session in November and December. Maybe we can get. Chairman Thompson has been working hard on the bill. He's traveled all over the country talking to people in agriculture in ag districts again all across our great land. So. Hopefully we can get something done then. We'll have to wait and see.
You know, the biggest thing, of course, for our farmers are inputs, and input costs come down to diesel and DEF, and those prices going up. What do you see us doing, hopefully, under a Trump administration that can help lower those input costs for our producers?
Well, you're exactly right. It's all being driven by inflation. When you spend like crazy, which is what the Democrats have done, you shouldn't be surprised when you get inflation. I do this whole list of things. When you pay people not to work, you shouldn't be surprised when you can't find workers. When you spend like crazy, you shouldn't be surprised when you get inflation. There's just certain things are just common sense that people in agriculture and people with common sense understand. So that's the problem. We have to win. I mean, they're talking about if Democrats win. I don't think they're going to. I think President Trump's going to be in the White House. I think we're going to win the Senate. I think we're going to keep the House. But if it would happen to go the other way, they're talking about taxing unrealized gains. Yeah. You talk about stupid. I mean, that's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So this is what's at stake. I love what Sarah Huckabee Sanders said 2 years ago when she did the response to President Biden's State of the Union address. And in her response, she said, the divide in America today is normal versus crazy. And it's true. Like, there's just so many crazy policies the left now has. The left says defund the police. The left says, have an open border. The left says let non-citizens vote. The left says tax unrealized gains. Just like crazy things like that. So that's why this election is so darn important.
Our farmers, our producers here in the Buckeye State did it right for so many years when it came to working with migrant workers and bringing in migrant workers to help with their crops and help do what they need to do to produce the produce and the various goods and get them from the field to the table. But this influx of illegals has really put a bad light on the whole situation. You want to clarify that a little bit?
Well, yeah, because we don't have a border now. I mean, they made a deliberate decision, they meaning the Biden administration, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris made a decision on day one. No more building the wall. No more remain in Mexico while we evaluate your claim, your asylum claim. And if you get here, you will not be detained. You will be released. Well, when you do that on day one, you send a message to the entire world: come to America. You're gonna be able to go wherever you want. And that's why we have now 10 million at a minimum who've come into the country. Then they added on top of that this temporary protective status program, which is for 4 countries: Venezuela, Nicaragua, Haiti, and Cuba. And this is a situation that we've seen in the national news in Springfield, Ohio. So it's a deliberate decision, and it's not according to the rule of law. It's not how it's supposed to operate. And so you're right. It for those who do want to do things in a legal fashion according to the rule of law, it just makes it tougher. So that's what's got to change, and it will change if President Trump wins, because he will say, he says we're gonna send people back to their native country, who and we're going to start with people who are here illegally and also committed a crime. So in addition to the crime of coming in the country illegally, they've committed some other crime. That's who we're going to start with sending back, and that'll send a message to the rest of the world, like, okay, time out. No, we can't go to the United States anymore. So that's how you have to do it.
You know, Jim, a big issue, of course, with especially our soybean producers here in the Buckeye State. That's a product that we ship all over the world. And, of course, China is an integral part of buying those soybeans and helping our producers here in the Buckeye State. Under Trump, there were tariffs. There were some issues with that. Where do you see that going as far as a change is concerned to help our producers?
Yeah, the president's been clear on, he'll use tariffs to accomplish, if people aren't treating us fairly, he's willing to use tariffs. A great example combining the last 2 questions is he always tells this story. He said when he was putting in place the remain in Mexico policy for migrants coming here, so you wait there while we evaluate the claim. And then if you're a legitimate asylum seeker, which frankly most aren't, but if you are, according to our law, then you'll be let into the country. So he tells a story. He calls up the president of Mexico when he was in the White House and says, hey, we need you to have these migrants wait in Mexico while we evaluate their claim for asylum. And the Mexican president said, well, I don't think we can do that. And President Trump says, no, we really want you to have them wait in Mexico while we evaluate their claim. We need you to do that. And he goes, I don't think we can do that, Mr. President. And President Trump goes, do you want tariffs? And suddenly he said, oh, I think we can have them wait in Mexico. So it's like make them an offer they can't refuse kind of approach. And that's President Trump's attitude. So certainly he wants to help our agriculture industry, help the American farmer, but he also wants fair trade. We get free trade, but it needs to be fair as well. Free trade is good economics, but President Trump has talked about fair trade, and that's why he thinks sometimes you gotta respond with tariffs.
You know, Jim, there's some exciting expanding markets when it comes to products like soybeans. We're talking about Europe. We're talking about corn. Those expanding markets, those are things that we need to continue to push. And do you see that moving forward as well?
I do. Being able to market your product in as many places as possible is just good business. We want that for the American farmer. So we want to foster and promote that. But as I said before, I think the president understands that. He wants to help the American agriculture industry. He wants to help all of the American economy, which was roaring back 5-6 years ago when he was president. Wages were up for every demographic in our population, African American, Hispanic American, you name it. So he wants that. He wants to get back to that, and I think we can if we win. But if they win, they're going to raise tax. I mean, look, if we win everything, there's 3 things that need to happen. First 3 things: reauthorize the tax cuts. Those come due in 2025, early 2012. Reauthorize the tax cuts, get back to common sense energy policy, secure the border. Those 3 things. You do that, you'll get a roaring economy. If they win, they're going to raise taxes. They're going to continue the stupid energy policy, and they're going to continue to have an open border. And we'll continue to be in trouble as a country economically. So I don't think it takes a genius to figure that out. 1, 2, 3. And energy is critically important. You talk about the cost for farmers. When it costs more to buy the diesel, to plant the crops and haul the crops and do everything else, and the guy who's bringing you the other supplies, is costing him more to bring you the supplies, so that drives up the cost of those supplies. I mean, it's like energy drives it. I tell people all the time, the world's better when we lead, when America leads. You cannot lead economically, you cannot lead militarily and diplomatically unless you lead economically. And you cannot lead economically unless you have readily available energy at affordable cost. So that is critically important for all, certainly agriculture, but for all sectors of our economy.
And Jim, I've heard you say in the past too, it's an all of the above energy policy. Is that something you still agree with?
Totally. But don't have this bias against coal, gas, and oil, which is what the left has. I'm fine if wind and solar and all those things can help us, great. But they're not enough. We know that, and we have readily available energy, oil, gas, and coal that the left hates. The left doesn't even like nuclear, which is we should use that as well. But this is today's crazy left.
You know, Jim, you just turned 60 this year. You don't look it. You still look like you're in wrestling shape. And I'm turning 64. We look at our producers out there, and our farming community is getting older all the time. So I want you to point out the differences of what the current administration and what a new administration under Trump would mean for those farming families who want to keep the farm in the family when it comes to taxes, when it comes to death taxes.
The death tax, inheritance tax, the left wants it, that hurts business owners, hurts agriculture people, pass it on the family farm. But the biggest thing that's hurting everyone right now is inflation. It's the cruelest tax there is. You take your family out to dinner on a Friday night. You got to dinner, you can go, you don't have to go to the nicest restaurant in town, but just go to a nice place. You got, your son and daughter and a couple grandkids and you and your spouse, and it's like $300, $400, it's like ridiculous. So the inflation is killing us, and it's hurting agriculture, hurting the family farm as well. So that's the biggest thing that'll change under President Trump. Like I said, I thought JD started off last night's debate. He said it's about protecting the American dream, the idea that protecting the promise this country has always given its citizens. If you have a goal, you have a dream, you work hard, good things can happen. You can accomplish all kinds of things, and that's what's at stake. And I thought he captured it. I thought he framed it up. Very first response is how he framed it, and we all know how good it was under President Trump, and our ability to chase the American dream was as strong as ever.
You know, again, when we talk about our producers, I think the biggest thing that has affected them when it comes to purchases is the interest rates, and we need to talk about that too. I know that the feds have started to lower interest rates, but that inflation has hindered a lot of our producers from buying those high-ticket items. You know, tractors and combines cost a lot of money, and I don't think the general public realizes that.
No, they do, and you're right. Again, this is inflation has driven the interest rates, the rates coming up, and it's makes everything more expensive. And you don't have to be a Nobel Prize winning economist to know that inflation is the cruelest tax there is, because your money's not worth as much. You're getting taxed. So that's what's at stake. And look, we had low inflation under President Trump. I think it was like 1% to 2%, was the highest it ever got. We had record inflation just a year and a half ago under Biden. Record inflation. That bill that spent all the money, they were crazy, so crazy they called it the Inflation Reduction Act, and it was the Inflation Causing Act. Like, what are you doing? So, but I think the American people are smart. I think they're going to put President Trump back in the White House.
Well, Jim, before we let you go, I got to always come back to wrestling. I'm going to throw a wrestling quote at you. One of my favorites is from the one and only Dan Gable. And Gable said that the greatest thing about wrestling is that it teaches you how to get off your back. Yeah. Now, our country's back is probably against the wall right now. It's not quite on the ground. But what can you say to everybody out there about what it takes to get your back off the ground and to move forward from here?
Maybe you saw this, watch. I tell people it's the greatest country ever. And if you may have seen this, when Scotty Scheffler at the Olympics won the gold medal, and at the awards presentation, Scotty Scheffler, I don't know him, never met him, but by all accounts, wonderful guy, wonderful family, wonderful Christian guy, the best golfer on the planet. I think this year alone, he made like $60-some million just this season. So amazing individual, amazing talent, just a great guy. Wins a gold medal, he's on the award stand, our flag's going up, they're playing our national anthem, and he chokes up. He's not some 18-year-old kid. He's a man with a family, and he chokes up. And Polly and I are watching this, and we get choked up watching him choke up. And you could tell because he's emotional because he knows what a great place it is. It's the best. Again, it's a place where a kid from Texas can be the greatest golfer in the world and win a gold medal and have his country's flag going up and our national anthem being played. It's a great place. And I think so many Americans see that, feel that, understand it, and they want to make sure it stays a great place. And that's what this, in my mind, that's what this election's about.
It's also about a kid from St. Paris, all right, and all the accomplishments that he's made, whether it's in college or in Congress. And it's always an honor and a pleasure having you on our TV show, Jim.
Well, God bless you. My best to your family. You ask about ours. I hope your family's doing well also.
Absolutely. Jim Jordan has been our guest here on In Ohio Country today, and we'll be back with more right after this.